Chosen one, pause for a moment and breathe. This is not random. This is not just another video. I carry an urgent message today, and I must be clear from the beginning. This is not for everyone who stumbles across it. If you are not serious about God, if you are still playing with faith, scrolling without conviction, this is your sign to leave. But if you walk with God in private, if you endure silently, if your spirit has been carrying more than your mouth has spoken, then stay right here. This message belongs to you. God has been watching you closely. God has been watching you closely. Not your perfection, not your mistakes, but your attitude in moments where most people would have broken, reacted, or walked away. The way you handled what hurt you left heaven quiet. Your response shocked the spiritual realm. Even Michael took notice of how you stood firm without making noise. And here is why you need to stay until the end. What you thought was God being distant was actually God being deeply attentive. By the time this message finishes, you will understand why everything unfolded the way it did, and your heart will finally feel lighter. Before we go deeper, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon, share this message with other chosen ones, and comment 777 in the comments to declare that you are aligned with God's divine purpose.
The attitude that heaven noticed. Chosen one, let me speak plainly to you now. Heaven was not watching your noise. Heaven was watching your posture. Not how loudly you prayed, not how often you spoke about faith, but how you carried yourself when no one was clapping, no one was explaining, and no one was rescuing you. Your attitude in those unseen moments is what caught God's attention. Many people think attitude is about mood. It is not. Attitude is how you respond when life does not respond back. It is what rises out of you when answers delay, doors remain closed, and people misunderstand your intentions. And this is where you surprised heaven. You did not collapse the way others expected. You did not become bitter the way the situation invited you to. You did not turn cold, angry, or reckless. Something in you stayed anchored. Let me tell you something important. God studies reactions. Heaven observes patterns. The spiritual realm listens closely to how a soul responds under pressure. And when the pressure increased around you, something unusual happened. You chose restraint when retaliation would have felt good. You chose silence when defending yourself would have been easier. You chose patience when frustration was justified. That decision alone separated you from many. You see, chosen ones are not measured by how loudly they claim faith, but by how quietly they carry it. Anyone can praise God when life is smooth. Anyone can testify when blessings are visible. But only the chosen maintain composure when they feel overlooked, delayed, or misunderstood. And that composure is not weakness. It is discipline. It is spiritual maturity forming in real time. God noticed that you stopped explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. That was not arrogance. That was wisdom. God noticed that you didn't chase validation from those who could not see your heart. God noticed that you kept your integrity intact even when no reward was guaranteed. This is rare, and rarity always attracts divine attention. There were moments when you could have complained and no one would have blamed you. Moments when bitterness would have made sense. Moments when walking away from faith would have felt justified. But instead of reacting emotionally, you responded thoughtfully. Instead of allowing pain to harden you, you allowed it to deepen you. That choice spoke louder in the spiritual realm than any prayer you whispered. Let me slow this down so your mind can rest for a moment. You were not ignored. You were observed. You were not forgotten. You were evaluated. God was watching how you handled disappointment without becoming disrespectful, how you handled silence without becoming insecure, how you handled delay without becoming desperate. These moments were not small, they were defining. Your attitude showed God that you are teachable, that you are steady, that you can be trusted with more. Many people ask God for elevation, but few have the emotional control to sustain it. Elevation without maturity destroys people. God will never rush you into a position your character cannot survive. So before promotion, there is observation, and you passed that stage without even knowing it. You didn't curse your season. You didn't envy others loudly. You didn't rush God with ultimatums. You learned how to breathe through uncertainty. You learned how to sit with unanswered questions. You learned how to trust without constant reassurance. That is not normal behavior. That is trained behavior. And training always precedes assignment. I want you to understand something deeply. Heaven is not impressed by emotional reactions. Heaven is impressed by emotional regulation. When you chose calm over chaos, peace over panic, stillness over stress, something shifted. God saw that you were no longer being controlled by circumstances. You were becoming grounded in truth, and grounded people cannot be easily shaken. This is why your attitude mattered so much. It showed growth. It showed healing. It showed that past wounds no longer controlled your present responses. It showed that you are not led by impulse, but by discernment. And discernment is one of the strongest signs of spiritual maturity. Some people around you reacted loudly. They panicked, they complained, they blamed. They broke under the same pressure you endured, and that contrast did not go unnoticed. God saw that you remained consistent when others became unstable. That consistency is what made heaven pause. Your attitude became a silent prayer. It became a testimony without words. It became proof that God's work in you is real, deep, and lasting. You didn't just survive the moment. You handled it with dignity. And dignity is a language heaven understands very well. Let me speak to your heart now. If you ever wondered whether staying calm was worth it, it was. If you ever questioned whether holding your tongue mattered, it did. If you ever felt foolish for choosing peace over proving a point, hear me clearly. God saw it. God honored it. God recorded it. This is why you felt stretched, but not destroyed. Pressured, but not crushed. Confused, but not lost. You were being shaped quietly. Heaven was watching closely, and your attitude spoke volumes when your mouth said very little. Take a deep breath right now. Let your shoulders relax. You did not handle things wrong. You handled them wisely. And wisdom always invites divine favor, even when it feels lonely in the moment. What heaven noticed was not perfection. It was progression. And that progression is about to matter more than you realize. There were people watching you who expected you to break. They expected a reaction. They expected anger, bitterness, or withdrawal. When you didn't give them that, confusion entered the atmosphere. But peace entered you. And peace is always a sign that God is near. God was speechless because you didn't make the situation about yourself. You didn't say, "Why me?" You didn't turn inward in self-pity. You allowed the process to shape you instead of resenting it. That humility is not taught easily. It is earned through experience and surrender. Let me calm your heart right now. If you ever wondered whether your quiet endurance mattered, it did. If you ever questioned whether staying faithful in silence was noticed, it was. God saw your restraint as strength. He saw your patience as power. He saw your stillness as trust. This is why heaven responded the way it did. Your response disrupted expectations. It revealed readiness. It revealed stability. It revealed a soul that can be trusted with more responsibility, more influence, and more impact. God was not silent because he was unsure. He was silent because he was acknowledging something rare. A chosen one who has learned how to rest in faith instead of reacting in fear. And that chosen one is why this season is not ending in loss. It is ending in recognition. And let me tell you something else that many people overlook. God was speechless not because he lacked words, but because your response removed the need for correction. There was nothing to rebuke, nothing to restrain, nothing to realign. You were already positioned correctly in your spirit. That kind of alignment is rare, especially after disappointment. Most people need to be redirected when things don't go their way. They drift into resentment. They drift into comparison. They drift into self-blame or pride. But you didn't drift. You stayed centered. You stayed anchored. Even when your emotions were heavy, you didn't let them drive the direction of your faith. That alone speaks of inner authority. You didn't ask God to prove himself. You didn't test him with ultimatums. You didn't say, "If you don't move now, I'm done." Instead, you adjusted your expectations without abandoning your belief. That flexibility is a sign of wisdom. Rigid faith breaks under pressure. Mature faith bends without snapping. There were moments when you felt disappointed, yes, but you did not let disappointment turn into distrust. You felt the weight, but you didn't let it crush your hope. You acknowledged your emotions without letting them dominate your decisions. That balance is not common, and heaven recognizes balance. God saw that you learned how to sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it. You didn't numb yourself spiritually. You didn't distract yourself with noise. You didn't abandon your values just to feel better temporarily. You stayed present. You stayed honest. You stayed faithful, even when faith felt quiet. This is why I keep saying your response was rare. You didn't need God to constantly reassure you. You trusted his character more than your circumstances. And when someone trusts God's character, they stop demanding constant explanations. They understand that silence does not mean absence. It often means preparation. Let this settle into your spirit gently. You were not being tested to fail. You were being observed to be trusted. God was not measuring your endurance to exhaust you. He was measuring your stability to elevate you. And now you can rest in this truth. What you handled quietly has already spoken loudly in the spiritual realm. There were people watching you who expected you to break. They expected a reaction. They expected anger, bitterness, or withdrawal. When you didn't give them that, confusion entered the atmosphere. But peace entered you. And peace is always a sign that God is near. God was speechless because you didn't make the situation about yourself. You didn't say, "Why me?" You didn't turn inward in self-pity. You allowed the process to shape you instead of resenting it. That humility is not taught easily. It is earned through experience and surrender. Let me calm your heart right now. If you ever wondered whether your quiet endurance mattered, it did. If you ever questioned whether staying faithful in silence was noticed, it was. God saw your restraint as strength. He saw your patience as power. He saw your stillness as trust. This is why heaven responded the way it did. Your response disrupted expectations. It revealed readiness. It revealed stability. It revealed a soul that can be trusted with more responsibility, more influence, and more impact. God was not silent because he was unsure. He was silent because he was acknowledging something rare. A chosen one who has learned how to rest in faith instead of reacting in fear. And that chosen one is why this season is not ending in loss. It is ending in recognition. And let me tell you something else that many people overlook. God was speechless not because he lacked words, but because your response removed the need for correction. There was nothing to rebuke, nothing to restrain, nothing to realign. You were already positioned correctly in your spirit. That kind of alignment is rare, especially after disappointment. Most people need to be redirected when things don't go their way. They drift into resentment, they drift into comparison, they drift into self-blame or pride. But you didn't drift. You stayed centered. You stayed anchored. Even when your emotions were heavy, you didn't let them drive the direction of your faith. That alone speaks of inner authority. You didn't ask God to prove himself. You didn't test him with ultimatums. You didn't say, "If you don't move now." God was testing your humility. Not humiliation, humility. There is a difference. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is refusing to let pride speak when silence is wiser. And you showed that humility without being told. You were tested in patience. You waited without trying to manipulate outcomes. You didn't force doors. You didn't chase what was not ready. You allowed timing to do its work, even when waiting made you uncomfortable. That patience revealed maturity. You were tested in restraint. There were moments when you could have defended yourself and been justified. Moments when you could have spoken up and been believed. But something in you said, "Let this unfold. Let truth speak on its own." That restraint was not fear, it was confidence. God was also testing how you treat people who are not aligned with your future. You didn't become cruel, you didn't become dismissive, you didn't harden your heart. You learned how to detach without hatred, and that is a sign of healing. Let me tell you something that will settle your spirit. Heaven promotes people who don't beg for validation, people who can stay grounded without applause, people who remain faithful even when no one is watching. You showed that faithfulness. This test revealed that you no longer need constant reassurance to stay obedient. You no longer need immediate rewards to remain committed. You trust God's timing more than your emotions. That trust passed the test. You were also tested in how you handled disappointment. Disappointment reveals a lot about a person. Some become bitter, some become cynical, some give up quietly. But you processed disappointment without letting it poison you. You allowed it to teach you instead of defining you. There were moments when your heart felt heavy, moments when you questioned if it was worth it, and still you didn't walk away from your values. You didn't abandon your principles. You didn't compromise your integrity to feel better temporarily. That choice mattered. God was watching to see if you would remain teachable. And you did. You reflected. You adjusted. You grew. You didn't blame everyone else. You didn't pretend you had all the answers. You stayed open. And openness is a sign of wisdom. This test also measured your emotional independence. Could you remain steady without constant support? Could you self-regulate without external validation? Could you stay calm when reassurance was missing? And you did. That is why I say you passed without knowing it. You weren't trying to impress God. You were just being honest, grounded, and faithful. And that authenticity spoke louder than performance ever could. Let me calm your thoughts here. You were not delayed because you failed. You were delayed because the test was still unfolding. And now, it is complete. The reason things didn't collapse around you is because you were operating from stability. The reason you didn't lose yourself is because you were anchored. The reason you're still standing is because you passed what others fail repeatedly. God does not promote based on potential alone. He promotes based on proven character, and your character was proven in silence. This is why certain doors did not open prematurely. God was protecting you from stepping into something before you were emotionally ready. He was shielding you from pressure that could have overwhelmed you earlier. And now, because you stayed steady, the weight will not crush you. You don't need to replay every moment wondering if you did enough. You don't need to question your worth. You don't need to doubt your progress. Heaven already confirmed it. The test was never meant to break you. It was meant to qualify you. And you qualified with grace, patience, and quiet strength. Take a deep breath. Let that truth settle. You passed. And let me add this, because your heart may still be carrying quiet questions. The test was also about trust when clarity was missing. God was watching to see if you would grow anxious in uncertainty or grounded in faith. And even when your mind searched for answers, you did not let anxiety take control. You learned how to wait without unraveling. That mattered more than you know. You didn't need to understand everything to remain faithful. You accepted that some things would make sense later. That level of trust only develops in someone who has been walked through fire and chosen healing instead of hardness. God saw that shift in you. There were days when motivation was low, when enthusiasm faded, when you felt emotionally drained. Yet you still showed up as yourself, not perfect, not pretending, just honest and steady. That consistency under emotional fatigue revealed maturity far beyond your years. This test also measured how you speak to yourself in private. When things didn't work out, you didn't destroy your own confidence. You didn't shame yourself. You didn't label yourself as a failure. You learned how to be gentle with yourself while still holding yourself accountable. That balance is rare. God noticed that you stopped chasing closure from people and started finding peace within yourself. You no longer needed everyone to understand you in order to move forward. You released the need to be explained and embraced the freedom of being aligned. That is why this test ends with peace instead of exhaustion. You didn't come out bitter. You came out clearer. You didn't come out broken. You came out stronger and more aware. So let your spirit rest now. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was overlooked. You didn't miss your moment. You were being prepared for it. What happens next? The shift you are entering. Chosen one, now I want you to listen slowly, not with urgency, but with calm awareness. Because what comes next is not loud, it is not rushed, and it is not chaotic. The shift you are entering will feel quieter than you expected, but deeper than anything you have experienced before. Many people assume that when God moves, everything changes instantly on the outside. But that is not how divine transitions usually work. God changes things internally first. He settles the mind. He stabilizes the emotions. He strengthens discernment. Only then does he adjust the environment. That is exactly what is happening with you now. You are entering a season where clarity will come before comfort. You will start to understand things that once confused you. Patterns will make sense. Past delays will feel intentional instead of frustrating, and this understanding will bring peace long before it brings visible reward. Do not rush this part. This is the season where God aligns you with yourself, where your thoughts slow down, where your reactions soften, where your decisions become more intentional. You will notice that you are no longer as reactive as you once were. Things that used to disturb you will lose their grip. That is not because you stopped caring. It is because you started seeing clearly. The next phase of your life will require steadiness more than excitement. You are not being prepared for chaos. You are being prepared for responsibility. And responsibility demands a calm mind, not a restless one. You may notice people drifting away naturally, not through conflict, not through drama, just through distance. Do not panic. This is alignment, not loss. God is removing what no longer resonates with your frequency. What once fit you will not fit you anymore, and that is okay. At the same time, you may not see immediate replacements, and that silence can feel uncomfortable if you don't understand it. But God often creates space before he fills it. Empty rooms echo before they are furnished. Let the space exist. It is making room for something healthier. You are also entering a season where your intuition will sharpen. You will sense when to speak and when to stay quiet, when to move and when to wait, when to say yes and when to walk away. This discernment will save you time, energy, and emotional strain. Trust it. Do not be surprised if opportunities begin to appear slowly instead of all at once. God is not overwhelming you. He is pacing you. He knows how much you can carry. He knows when to introduce new responsibilities, and he will not rush what needs to be sustained. You may feel a stronger pull toward simplicity. Less noise, fewer explanations, more intention. That is not withdrawal, that is refinement. When you know who you are, you no longer need to prove it. This season will also require you to protect your peace fiercely, not aggressively, gently. You will learn to say no without guilt, to step back without apology, to rest without feeling lazy. This is not selfishness. It is stewardship of your well-being. Let me say something important here. The shift you are entering will not validate you publicly at first. It will validate you internally. You will feel more secure in your decisions, more grounded in your identity, less shaken by opinions. That inner security is the foundation for everything that follows. Do not chase signs. Do not overanalyze timelines. Stay present. Stay consistent. Stay aligned. When the time is right, movement will feel natural, not forced. You are also being trained to recognize peace as confirmation. Not adrenaline, not urgency, peace. If something brings confusion, pressure, or constant anxiety, pause. God's direction carries clarity, even when it requires courage. This next phase will reward patience. It will reward discipline. It will reward self-awareness. You are not stepping into something fragile. You are stepping into something sustainable. There will be moments when you are tempted to look back, to compare, to wonder if you should have moved faster. Resist that urge. You are exactly where you need to be to receive what is coming without losing yourself in the process. And let me reassure you of this. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing out. You are being positioned. God is not preparing a blessing that excites you temporarily. He is preparing a life that sustains you long-term. That kind of preparation takes time, and you are handling it well. You don't need to force momentum. You don't need to announce growth. You don't need to prove readiness. Your steadiness already speaks. This shift is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming fully yourself, without fear, without pressure, and without distraction. Stay grounded, stay faithful, stay open. The next chapter will unfold naturally. And let me prepare you for something gently, so it does not catch you off guard. This next phase may feel slower on the surface, but internally it will feel steadier than anything you have known. You will notice that you are no longer in a rush to arrive. You will feel less pressure to prove, less urgency to explain. That slowing is not stagnation. It is confidence settling in. You may also notice that your standards are changing. Things you once tolerated will no longer feel acceptable. Conversations that once entertained you will now feel draining. Environments that once felt familiar may start to feel heavy. This is not judgment. This is discernment, refining itself. When growth happens internally, external alignment must follow. There will be moments when you wonder if something is missing, a sense of excitement, a dramatic breakthrough. But what God is giving you now is better than excitement. He is giving you stability, and stability doesn't shout. It holds. This season is teaching you how to trust quiet progress, how to value small confirmations, how to recognize movement even when it isn't loud. You will learn that not every blessing announces itself. Some arrive as peace. Some arrive as clarity. Some arrive as the absence of anxiety where it once lived. Pay attention to how your body responds now. Your shoulders are less tense. Your breathing is deeper. Your thoughts are clearer. That is not coincidence. That is alignment manifesting physically. When the soul rests, the body follows. You are also being taught how to wait without watching the clock, how to stay present without scanning the horizon. This is important because what is coming will require you to be fully here, not mentally elsewhere. Let this be the season where you trust consistency over intensity, where you choose grounded faith over emotional highs, where you allow things to build slowly so they last. Nothing is about to collapse. Nothing is slipping away. Nothing is being taken from you. What is unfolding now is quiet, intentional, and deeply protective, and you are ready for it. Conclusion. Final affirmation and alignment call. Chosen one, let me leave you with this truth so your heart can rest tonight. God saw you, not the version of you that performs, not the version that explains, the real you, the one who stayed steady when it was hard, the one who chose peace when chaos was available, the one who trusted even when clarity was missing. Your attitude mattered more than you know. It spoke when you stayed silent. It defended you when you stepped back. It qualified you when you thought nothing was happening. Heaven did not overlook you. Heaven responded. You were never weak for holding your peace. You were wise. You were never behind for waiting. You were being aligned. You were never ignored in silence. You were being observed with intention. This message reached you at the right time because you were ready to hear it. Not earlier, not later, now. Let that settle. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You are becoming stable, grounded, and clear. And that is more powerful than any sudden breakthrough. So move forward gently. Stay faithful. Stay humble. Stay consistent. You don't need to rush what God is already preparing. What is meant for you will meet you in peace, not panic. And before you go, chosen ones, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Share this message with other chosen ones who need this reassurance and comment 777 in the comments as a declaration that you are aligned, steady, and trusting God's process. Rest now. Heaven knows your name.